Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. Always great to have you with us. Always great to be able to introduce you to awesome people working for awesome organizations, doing great things in different parts of the world. Today, we're going to travel to Mexico. Both of my guests are joining me today from Mexico City and from an organization called AMEXTRA. So let me introduce both of my guests to you. We'll start with Marcela Salas. Marcela, you're the executive director, so let me start with you and just welcome you to the program.
That's right. Thank you, Adam, for having us today.
Great to have you. Looking forward to learning about AMEXTRA. Also on the line today from Mexico City, live and in person, Stephanie Ahlgrain. And Stephanie is the manager of fundraising, strategic alliances, crucial part of the organization. And so, Stephanie, we want to be sure and welcome you to this program today as well.
Thank you, Asher. We're excited to talk to you, Adam.
Great to have both of you ladies on the line today, and we're going to learn about AMEXTRA. And anybody, we'll start by saying this is a special broadcast for me because anybody that knows I have a special place in my heart for Mexico and spent many years there. And so it's just always great to check back in with people doing great work in Mexico. So again, welcome to the program. Marcela, tell us. I know this organization, AMEXTRA, has been around for. I think you guys are celebrating your 37th year, so nearly 40 years. Congratulations with that, Marcela. What is AMEXTRA's focus? Where do you work, and what are the types of things that AMEXTRA does?
Yeah, that's right. Last July, we had our 37th anniversary. Um, and our main mission is to promote the integral transformation of marginalized communities in Mexico. And what is that we call holistic or integral transformation? It is the change in the way of thinking in people that we work with that allows them to recognize that they have gifts, that they have resources that they can use to get out of a difficult situation. So that's what we ultimately want to do. And how we do it by working in different strategic we call them. And so we work with health and nutrition, education, income generation, environmental care, and also we act when there is an emergency. We go there too. So that's the way that AMEXTRA promotes this holistic transformation. And also we would like to say that we work more in center to South Mexico. That's because the most marginalized communities in the country are in South Mexico. So we work in Chiapas, we work in Guerrero, we work now in Tabasco after the floods of last year. And we also have programs in the state of Mexico, which is the surrounding area of Mexico City.
That's the voice of Marcela Salas. She's the executive director at AMEXTRA. And AMEXTRA is the organization that we're focusing on today. Also on the line is Stephanie Ahlgrain. Stephanie, let's ask you the following question, okay? And fair warning, everybody. I always come to these interviews and these conversations with questions, things I want to get at, some ideas I have about, the things that we need to talk about. But I also like to, wing it a little bit. And you used a term, Marcela, that I think we should talk about. So I'm going to ask Stephanie for her own definition of what it means when we say that a people or a people group is marginalized. All right, that's a great term. It's a term that you used, Marcela, and that's important to AMEXTRA to help and to work with and to help raise up groups of people that have been marginalized. But Stephanie, as we welcome you to the program, you get one of the tough questions right out of the right out of the chute. Right, you're the first one to take one of these philosophical Adam Asher type questions. But what does it mean when we say that a people group has been marginalized?
I think that's a great question, Adam. We use marginalized as an alternative to impoverished, or one of those words that kind of has like a top-down kind of connotation. So marginalized for AMEXTRA is part of our mission. Our mission is to promote holistic transformation in marginalized communities. And some of the definitions can be not as much access to healthcare services, to quality healthcare, low access to quality education, transportation. For example, we work with one community that's just about a kilometer away from a local garbage dump. And that's a condition of marginalization. The schools are very far away to walk to. There's really no sporting facilities. It's just a very kind of on the edge of the kind of population that receives public services and public attention, and is really part of the decision makers. It's kind of marginalized from those spaces. So those are the spaces that AMEXTRA works in. Marginalized can also be in rural spaces. We work with a lot of indigenous communities in Mexico, which also tend to be marginalized. The culture tends to be considered something that's lesser than, unfortunately, in Mexico, and really there's a lot of richness in that culture. So really, we take it as that definition as groups that are maybe not, their voices aren't as part of major political decisions, or don't have as much access to healthcare, to education, to the economy, and things like that.
That's a great definition. And you are also absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. When you think about these communities that perhaps for one reason or another have been marginalized, and you look at their own individual culture, and you look at their languages, oftentimes they have unique languages. These are beautiful, beautiful things. And it's largely a shame that they are pushed to the margins or find themselves on the margins of society or whatever. So I love that. I love that. I mean, there's so much beauty in these different cultures. And that's an adventure in and of itself, to get to know and learn to love and respect those kinds of differences. So again, very, very appreciative and respectful of the work that you do. Marcela Salas is the executive director. She's one of our guests today. She works at AMEXTRA, and you can look them up online at amextra.org. AMEXTRA. And basically, you would spell it if you're listening to the audio version. You don't have the advantage of seeing it on the screen. So it's AMEXTRA, AMEXTRA.org. Marcela, let's delve into a few of these particular areas that AMEXTRA works. One of them being education. Help me understand some of the ways AMEXTRA helps the education or the education, like educational initiatives in these communities.
Yes, as Stephanie said, the problem is huge in the education area, especially in marginalized communities. We have made some studies, and we know that many of the students that we work with do not attend public school. And you might think like this is incredible nowadays, but some children do not have like their birth certificates in Mexico, very close to Mexico City communities, so they cannot attend public schools. AMEXTRA works with them, giving them basic education, but also working with the parents in order to make them understand that it is necessary for the children to have their birth certificate so they can access to the public school. That's one of the ways we work with children. We also work with children that do attend public schools, and they need some regularization classes or a little extra help. We give that to them. And also in the rural communities, where children do go to public schools, we give them this extra lift that they need, because many times education is not given in their own languages, for example. So our promoters are bilingual, work with the children in order for them to better understand what they are seeing in their public schools. Also, we have a model of values for nonviolence that we work both with children and adults, but we promote this model in schools that we made alliances with. And the thing is to promote a culture of peace and nonviolence reaction to any trouble problem that children front in their lives. So this is basically what we work in education, and also some other things like reading club, and a little bit more of play and learn activities. We have 2 play and learn centers in Guerrero and Chiapas that are attended by children that before they work with AMEXTRA. Well, it's very sad, but they never played with a toy, for example. They didn't have this ludic part of learning.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and my guest today, one of my guests, is Marcela Salas, and that's her voice you just heard there, giving us an introduction to AMEXTRA and the ways that they work, in particular in the educational field. And you think about some of the challenges that the people are facing, and what a wonderful thing that AMEXTRA is there to come alongside them and to help in some way, in many ways. Marcela, I'm going to stick with you for the following question. Tell me about the languages. I know, again, this show is seen and listened to all over the world, so sometimes I want to be sure and state the obvious. The national language in Mexico is Spanish, and yet there are many different languages represented in Mexico. Tell me about a few of those.
Of course. Yeah, we are a very rich country in cultural diversity. We have more than 69 other Mexican languages. And we are very proud that AMEXTRA works with some of these indigenous groups. For example, in Chiapas, we work with 3 indigenous groups. That's Tzotzil, Tzeltal, and Chol. In Guerrero, we work with the Tunsavi people. And now in Tabasco, we work with Chontal, the Chontal people. So we really believe that there is richness and a lot of value in these cultures. And when we work with them, we do not want to come and say, this is not well done, let's do now this. We know that they already have lots of things that are of value, and we want to rescue that. So, for example, in our nutrition and health programs, we try to rescue the recipes of the Tzotzil people that are now forgotten, the use of corn that is not being used as much as before now, and the combination of vegetables that grew by themselves in these parts of Mexico, and that was a little bit abandoned, and we are trying to recover that. Also with the education part, we try to use the native language where we are. All our promoters in these places are people from the same area that know the language, and that has been very valuable because we can better communicate, build trust. For example, right now we are working in a village in Chiapas, a city, and that has different villages around. It's called Ocosingo, and we are working there with the Tzeltal people. And we are doing a program called Community Narrative Practice that has to do with prevention of violence against women, sexual and reproductive violence. And we are here working with an anthropologist called Caitlin Cash that has developed this program. And one of the main things she has learned from the development of this program is that if you do not speak the same language of the people when you promote a program like this, it will not work. So everything that we have been working to develop this is being in Tzeltal. Interviews, anthropological interviews have been conducted in Tzeltal. And from those interviews, stories were written in Tzeltal. And now we are printing books that are illustrated and have texts in Tzeltal. And we are very close to begin to implement this program, of course, in Tzeltal, with the people that are suffering from this type of violence in this region of Mexico. So it is an example of how important it is to speak the same language and not just to try and impose Spanish and ideas that are different to the culture of the people that we are working with.
That's amextra.org, and that is spelled AMEXTRA, amextra.org. Again, that's Marcela Salas, the executive director, and also joining us, as you know, on the line today, Stephanie Ahlgrain. Stephanie, talk to me about the ways that AMEXTRA helps to support the healthcare needs of these people groups when you think about medical care, the access to medical care, or in many cases, the lack of access to adequate medical care. How does AMEXTRA help in this regard?
Sure. Yeah, healthcare is another really important strategic axis of AMEXTRA's work. It depends really on the community how we work in each area. We do a diagnostic exam, not an exam, like a diagnostic evaluation, community interviews at the beginning, working with the community to see kind of what their needs are in health, what their needs are in education, what their needs are in environmental conservation, and that's kind of how we decide what we can and can't do. In terms of health and nutrition, we kind of group those together, health and nutrition. We work with children and adults to learn about different topics in hygiene. We build ecological latrines and talk about like water conservation and things like that to keep water from being contaminated. It really depends on each community and what their needs are. One, if it's besides the garbage dump, their needs are going to be very different in health versus a rural community. But typical things that we work in health are doing anthropometric measurements with children and adults to kind of see how growth and height and weight are related, see if children are malnourished and need kind of support in that. We test if they're anemic. We also build gardens with families, community greenhouses, chicken coops, things like that for families or for children that are diagnosed with some form of malnutrition, either undernutrition or malnutrition. We can also give references. We're not actually doctors ourselves, but occasionally we do medical campaigns. We're actually trying to do one right now in Tabasco where there was flooding last year. So really, it kind of depends on the community, how we work with their healthcare needs. It's very related also to environmental conservation in terms of hygiene, in terms of healthy diets and things like that. Really, organic production, local production of foods are really related to healthcare. And AMEXTRA has that interrelated concept that I think makes us really strong as an organization, that we work with a bunch of different needs that a community may have. And our promoters they've studied in their different areas. The health promoter might have experience growing fish, and that's not something that AMEXTRA normally does, but we can start doing that with communities. It kind of goes day by day with the communities, what needs they have, and then AMEXTRA works to address them.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and that is Stephanie Ahlgrain. And we're talking about AMEXTRA, an organization based in Mexico City, but working throughout Mexico, in and among and with marginalized people groups, and people who may find themselves on the margin or in the margins of popular culture in ways. And as we've already discussed today, that's just not how it should be. And without losing their own unique culture, we want them to have the access to be a part of the greater culture as a whole. And so that's the kind of work that these guys do. Marcela Salas is the executive director. One of the things Stephanie mentioned, though, is how, as you guys come alongside these communities and you help them to have better and more adequate access to healthcare and nutrition and these sorts of things. But she mentioned that it goes hand in hand with environmental concerns. Talk to me about the importance of that and how that need is sort of woven through the different programs. It's a theme that continues to come up with AMEXTRA.
Yes, it's one of our main programs too. And I think here a lot has to do with people reflecting on what we are doing to the environment. We cannot just say like, this is not well done, you should change to this other technique, etc. But we really, in this area, we promote a reflection. What are we doing? What are we seeing? What problems are we causing to the earth, to the land where we are living? And what can we do different in order to stop this damage? So in Chiapas, for example, this reflection has touched deep in the heart and minds of people who get to remember that things were not like this before. For example, that their land was giving more, but they began using pesticides or chemic products and in order to produce more, but with time they see that they are not producing anymore, or that they were burning after the crop has given. They burn the land and now it's very arid. So after they go through that reflection, then we promote different things like the use of green fertilizers. So the main thing is to get this reflection in people, and afterwards then we began working with different eco technologies. For example, rainwater collection systems, ecological toilets that Stephanie already mentioned, ecological stoves that also help people to be healthier because they're not exposed to the smoke. We work with that. And for example, beekeeping, that is very good for the environment, but also promotes an income generation source. So yes, our programs like cross through each other. For example, beekeeping with income generation, ecological toilets and stoves. They have to do with environmental care, but also with health. And then we promote, of course, reforestation and these environmental education in schools. We have workshops with children, with adults. And yes, the main things that we want to address with this part of the efforts of AMEXTRA is deforestation, water access, and to give or provide better infrastructure for the houses of marginalized communities, marginalized families.
Stephanie, talk to us about the importance of income generation. Now, when you think about it, it's kind of obvious, right? We all know that for our own lives and our own needs, we have to have some income. And 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 yet what I think is interesting here is how through all the different programs that AMEXTRA has, and as you work with these communities, this concept of income generation is one of the ways you are helping them to become self-sufficient, right? And not just dependent on getting the help when they need it, which is absolutely legitimate. There's always a time for that. But to help raise up the community to take responsibility for themselves as families and so on and so forth, I think that is such an important piece of what you do at AMEXTRA. So tell us about the income generation portion of AMEXTRA's projects.
Sure, Adam. I'm glad we're going through all these different strategic areas. The five that AMEXTRA works with, they're all extremely important. As you mentioned, we all need some form of income to afford just the basic costs of living and be able to cover emergencies and things that we need in life. Another part of income generation from AMEXTRA is just it's a way to feel realized as a person, to feel your value when someone pays you or pays for a service or for a good that you've produced. It kind of gives you a purpose in life in some ways. So I think that's another element in addition to the economic, obviously necessity part of income generation. And the way AMEXTRA works with income generation is by diversifying and strengthening the skills that people already have. We're not going into a group and introducing a completely new business that they've never thought of, that they've never worked on before. Rather, we're going with artisans, textile workers that have made these beautiful blouses for centuries, and helping them to diversify them, to make different color combinations, to make them maybe more attractive if they're trying to sell them to a city population. Maybe instead of animals all over their blouse, like it would be for their traditional culture if they were going to wear it themselves, to put one small bird in a pocket or on a neckline, or kind of just seeing different trends so that their blouses are able to be sold more. Obviously, for their personal use, their blouses, they should make them as they want, in different color combinations. Like every culture has different values in terms of aesthetics and things like that. But in terms of income generation, we can help them work with that to kind of have them more available for different markets, locally, regionally, internationally. We work with beekeepers to sell their honey. We work with a collective of herbal products, of like herbal beauty products. They make things like soaps and shampoos and gels and teas, essential oils, things like that. We also work with agricultures, people that produce, what are they called in English? Like oyster mushrooms, big mushrooms. And people that sell just vegetables and things like that. So really just introducing techniques of personal business, personal financing, how much I should reinvest in my business when I get paid for a product, how much I can spend, how much I should use in reinvesting in my business. And that just kind of strengthens and brings out the full potential of these things as income generation products. There's things that people, as I mentioned, there are things that people already know how to do, they're already working on, and it's just making them a little bit stronger in cases like a global pandemic, when we need to have maybe different sources of income, so we're not dependent on one thing. We help these businesses and these people create incomes that are a little bit more stronger, a little bit more diversified. And generally, people really like to have these conversations about how to improve their business. People like it when their blouses are sold in a city, for example. They're amazed to, like, someone really likes this thing that I made. It's kind of a cool way to see their work valued and to kind of share their culture with the outside. So really, it's a really amazing program, this income generation program. It brings value to people's lives. It brings them income that helps them to weather all kinds of different storms. And it's part of, like Marcela said, it's really connected to the environment. It's really connected to education, really connected to health, and all these projects kind of feed on each other.
That's Stephanie Ahlgrain. She's one of my guests today here on the Edge of Adventure, joining us from AMEXTRA. And Marcela Salas is also with us. She's the executive director at AMEXTRA. And we're learning about this great organization, the many different facets of what they do, and their holistic approach, which is something that Marcela mentioned at the very beginning. And I think we have a better understanding now of what that means, holistic approach. All these different ways coming together to serve and stand by and stand with these beautiful people groups. Marcela, what do you want to see AMEXTRA do in the next couple of years as you think about what's next for AMEXTRA and this wonderful organization, knowing that you guys have been around for so long, 37 plus years. But as you think about the next couple of years, you're the executive director, you've got these big picture thoughts floating around in your head, I know. What's the goal for AMEXTRA? Both, okay, two-part question. Both in terms of projects, okay, but also in terms of what you want AMEXTRA to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a great question, Adam. I think we haven't talked about AMEXTRA as a corporative. We had talked more about AMEXTRA as the nonprofit, but we have also different branches that have been emerging from this nonprofit. So we have one branch called AMEXTRA Finances that offers programs of savings and credits to families that have little business. And then we have the AMEXTRA Artisanal that operates with our income generation program to sell the products that artisans or producers are making in their communities. We also have another part of AMEXTRA called Seats AMEXTRA that promotes traveling through the communities where we work and to create a little bit more of consciousness of how marginalized communities live, and also all the richness that there is in their culture. And we have another branch, AMEXTRA Consultants, that shares the knowledge that AMEXTRA has, the experience that we know. We want to share that with other organizations. And yeah, so one of the big dreams is that we can work more together. That, for example, the communities that AMEXTRA Finances is supporting are also part of the communities where AMEXTRA, the nonprofit, is working in, to grow this cooperation between AMEXTRA Artisanal and our artisans and producers, to bring more groups to the trips. We have more of American groups now, and one of our dreams is to bring more Mexican groups to these trips that we organize, and to get to more organizations sharing this model that we know that works, and that has to do with changing the way of thinking in people. So this corporative view, growing and becoming stronger, is one of the things we want to do. And also another thing I would like to strengthen is the part of gender equality. We have been working on that. That's part of all what we do. but I see this as a big necessity that has to be addressed in many of the communities where we work. We can see a lot of machismo and that women are not valued as equals. And so we want to really address and work in this. We are learning about this community narrative practice program that I was talking about before, but we are also willing to partner with another organization called Raising Voices. They have an awesome program called SASA that prevents violence against women. So we will be learning about this program and implementing it in urban areas and expanding the intervention that we have with community narrative practice in other states. We are working now in Chiapas, and we want to work with that in Guerrero too. So this is, I think, one of the big dreams of the organization.
That's Marcela Salas from AMEXTRA. And you can tell she's the executive director. Listen to those big dreams. Listen to the clarity, making sure we talk about all the different aspects of this great organization. And great job that you're doing, Marcela. And all these things are so important, so important. Well, as we get now to the end of the program here, let's do one other quick thing. Stephanie, tell me what AMEXTRA stands for.
AMEXTRA is an acronym for, in Spanish, the Asociación Mexicana de Transformación Rural y Urbana ACE, or the Mexican Association for Urban and Rural Transformation. And it really calls to just our mission, which is working in marginalized communities, whether they're urban or rural. And really this idea of transformation, of it goes more than just a chicken coop, it goes more than just reforesting, it's more than just an income generation. Really it's about transformation, about seeing ourselves as actors with skills, with unique talents, with goals, with dreams, and really using those to transform ourselves and transform our communities. Personal transformation can be like being more solidarity with our neighbors, with our friends, with our family, helping others, really taking those acts to be less selfish, to be in tune with the environment, to be in tune with health and education. And community transformation can be lifting up those that are fell behind. Those, all of us have different moments where we need help from others. So really having that transformation towards a more communal view, towards kind of using everyone their own skills and their own resources to have a better quality of life. So really our name pretty much encompasses our mission, which is nice.
And Stephanie, how can individuals or perhaps even for-profit entities come alongside you guys and help you with your mission?
Sure. Well, we have a pretty large individual donor campaign. Marcela and I have done a really strong effort in the last year or two to involve more individuals in these processes. There's sometimes we see it's important and we know it's important, but kind of that act of transformation is giving maybe a small donation, whatever is accessible to me, to a cause that I believe in. That's kind of an act of transformation of having something that I have and giving to others. We have, as you mentioned, for-profit collaborations as well with certain companies. We have matching donations through several companies. So that's a way to get involved. We do corporate volunteering. We have donations through different foundations, through governments, through churches. We work with a lot of church groups. And then, as Marcela was mentioning too, through these other entities like AMEXTRA Seeds. AMEXTRA Seeds is a way to visit these projects firsthand. We organize groups of small groups that can be of 2 or 3 people. They can be groups of 5 to 10 people. And we work to design a trip to one of the AMEXTRA communities. It can be to an urban area. It can be to a rural area in Chiapas, kind of depending on what the group wants. So that's a way to get involved, is to organize a trip to Mexico to learn firsthand these projects. We kind of try to combine some volunteering with education about the projects and the people that we work with, and then a little bit of tourism as well. If we are going to Palenque, which is where we have an agroecological center, we try to go to the archaeological site Palenque. So that's another way to get involved. Really, just reaching out to us is the best way to get involved. And our email to get more information is info@amextra.org.
And you can look them up online at amextra.org. That's amextra.org. I'll spell it AMEXTRA, just like it sounds, amextra.org. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today here on the Edge of Adventure. You two are awesome, and I know you represent an awesome organization doing great work. And, you know, we've been talking for quite a while here, but I know we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more, so much more for people to get to know and to learn to learn about you guys and appreciate about you guys. So I encourage them to do that. Look you up online at amextra.org. You're also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And it's just awesome to hear about what you're doing today. Stephanie Ahlgrain and Marcela Salas have been my guests today here on the Edge of Adventure. Ladies, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having us, Adam, and letting us share a little bit of AMEXTRA. And as you said, we invite everyone to go to our website and to contact us if they want to learn more about what we do.
Thank you so much. Great job. And we will talk again soon, I'm sure. Thank you again. That's Stephanie Ahlgrain and Marcela Salas, both joining us today from AMEXTRA. Look them up at amextra.org for more information. Ladies, have a great day. Thanks again for your time, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Adam.